The air in my basement always felt different. Not cold, not damp, but somehow stagnant. A heavy, forgotten kind of quiet that clung to the dusty corners and the old boxes piled against the rough-hewn stone walls. I'd spent countless hours down there, tinkering with old electronics, organizing tools, sometimes just sitting and letting the quiet seep into me. But there was one section of the wall, near the seldom-used laundry chute, that always felt wrong. The stones seemed to jut out just a fraction more, the mortar a shade darker, as if it had been disturbed, then hastily put back. One crisp autumn afternoon, a peculiar draft snaked around my ankles as I walked past that spot. It was faint, almost imperceptible, yet distinct from the usual cool air of the basement. Curiosity, that persistent little imp, prodded at me. I ran my hand over the rough surface, feeling for any anomaly. And there it was, a hairline crack, almost invisible, running vertically from floor to ceiling. It wasn't the kind of crack that signifies a house settling. This felt deliberate, a seam in a facade. My fingers traced the line, and I felt a faint give, a hollowness behind the stone that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't a solid wall at all, but rather a false front, carefully constructed. A shiver, not from the cold, ran down my spine. What could be hidden behind it? My mind, in that strange way it does, raced through possibilities. Old Prohibition-era stash, a forgotten safe, perhaps just a long-lost pipe access. But deep down, a more primal part of me whispered, something else. Driven by an urge I couldn't quite articulate, I grabbed a mallet and a chisel. The first tap was tentative, then firmer. Dust billowed and fragments of mortar crumbled away. With each swing, the crack widened, revealing a dark, silent void beyond. The stones, surprisingly, weren't mortared to anything substantial on the other side. They were simply held in place by friction and a thin layer of plaster. It took a surprising amount of effort, but eventually, with a final echoing thud, a section of the wall gave way, collapsing inward to reveal an opening, rectangular and utterly black. The draft now rushed out, carrying with it a scent, not of decay, but of stale, ancient air, like a tomb just opened. I retrieved a powerful flashlight, its beam cutting through the inky blackness. It revealed not a small cavity, but a narrow, seemingly endless hallway stretching into the gloom. The walls were lined not with stone or plaster, but with dark, ornate frames. I stepped through the newly formed aperture, my boots crunching softly on scattered debris. The air within was heavy, cold, and still. The flashlight beam swept across the frames, and my breath hitched. They were portraits, dozens of them, arranged symmetrically along both walls, receding into the oppressive distance, and every single one, chillingly, was of me. The first few were familiar enough, a younger version of myself, perhaps from my 20s, a slight smile playing on my lips. But as I walked deeper into the hallway, the images grew progressively unsettling. The subjects were undeniably me, but they aged with each frame. My hair thinned, lines etched themselves around my eyes and mouth, my shoulders slumped. It was a rapid, accelerated progression through a lifetime I hadn't lived. And then the decay began. In one portrait, my eyes were sunken, dark hollows staring out. In another, my skin seemed to sag, a waxy pallor replacing healthy color. Further still, my teeth were stained, my hands garned, my body wasting away, becoming gaunt, almost skeletal. The colors in the paintings themselves seemed to fade, mirroring the life draining from the subjects. There was a profound, suffocating sorrow in their silent gazes, a desperate pleading that resonated deep within my own chest. It felt like walking through a morbid timeline of my own demise, an album of every what-if I'd ever feared. The silence was profound, broken only by the echo of my own frantic heartbeats. I couldn't look away, drawn by a terrifying magnetism to witness each step of this spectral journey. The air grew colder, and a faint, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the floor beneath my feet. And then, at the very end of the long portrait-lined corridor, a single, unadorned archway opened into a small, dark alcove. Within it, gleaming faintly in the distance, was a full-length mirror. My hand trembled as I raised the flashlight, its beam illuminating the surface. My reflection stared back at me, familiar and yet profoundly different. For a moment, it was just me, wide-eyed and terrified. But then a subtle shift occurred. The eyes in the mirror, my eyes, seemed to deepen, to hold an ancient weariness I didn't possess. A slow, chilling smile spread across my reflection's face, a smile utterly devoid of warmth. And then the lips in the mirror began to move, a soundless whisper that nonetheless reverberated through my very bones. "I stayed down here," my reflection mouthed, the words a silent scream in my head. "You escaped." The smile widened, a glint of something predatory in its gaze. And then the lips in the mirror began to move. Just as the last silent word faded, a tremendous crash reverberated behind me. The opening I had broken through, the entrance to this nightmare hallway, slammed shut with an earth-shattering force. Dust billowed from the ceiling. I whirled around, my flashlight beam frantically sweeping across the wall, now sealed, as if it had never been opened. Panic seized me, cold and absolute. I spun back to the mirror, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. My reflection was still there, its smile even wider now, its eyes gleaming with a triumph that turned my blood to ice. And then, from the periphery of my vision, I caught movement. I turned slowly, my flashlight beam sweeping across the portraits lining the hallway. One by one, then in unison, the sunken, decaying faces in the frames began to change. The desperate sorrow, the pleading despair vanished. In its place, a slow, knowing, utterly malevolent smile spread across every single portrait of myself. Each one, from the youthful beginning to the most decayed end, was smiling. A silent, terrifying chorus of grins, all directed at me. I stood there, frozen, the air thick with the unspoken promise of what waited in that mirror and what had been waiting in those walls. It was more than just a hidden room. It was a prison, a forgotten part of myself, a potential I had locked away, perhaps unknowingly. And now it wasn't just wanting out, it was demanding release, with every decaying smile a chilling testament to its long, patient wait. This story, though a fiction, resonates with a profound unease that many of us feel about the forgotten corners of our own lives. What do we wall off, consciously or unconsciously? What parts of ourselves, our pasts, our unaddressed fears, do we seal away, hoping they'll simply decay in the dark? And what happens when those sealed-off versions of ourselves, having patiently waited in the shadows, finally decide they've waited long enough? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The idea that what we've suppressed might one day demand its freedom, perhaps with a quiet whisper and a knowing smile. I wonder what hidden doors might be lurking behind the walls of your own life. Thank you for joining me on this unsettling journey into the depths of a basement and perhaps into the depths of ourselves. If this story resonated with you, or if it sparked a thought, please feel free to share your reflections in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that explore the peculiar and the profound. Until next time, stay curious and perhaps keep an extra eye on those quiet corners.